Hey everyone, and welcome to a very special extended edition of The Explainer. I want you to take a second and think about the last thing you really, truly wanted. Not something you needed, like groceries or gas, but something you desired. Maybe it was a pair of sneakers that just kept showing up on your Instagram feed, or maybe it was a trip to a place you'd never even heard of until it started popping up everywhere, looking like paradise. Or, and this is happening more and more, maybe it was a whole new hobby. Like, suddenly you just felt this overwhelming urge to start baking sourdough bread, or maybe learn pottery, or get really into, competitive bird watching. Now, here's the question that's going to sit with us for this entire deep dive. Where did that feeling actually come from? Was it some pure, authentic impulse that just bubbled up from the depths of who you are? Or was it planted? Was it suggested to you, then carefully nurtured, and then precisely shaped by forces you literally didn't even notice were there? Today, we are going on a serious journey into that question. We're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden architecture of desire itself. We'll trace how it's been shaped through history, and most importantly, how right now, in this very moment, a powerful new force, artificial intelligence, isn't just influencing what we want anymore. It's fundamentally changing the very way we want. This is a story about tech, for sure, but it's so much bigger than that. It's a story about psychology, about philosophy, and about the ghost of a French psychoanalyst that is kind of haunting our modern machines. This is one of the most important conversations we can be having right now, and to do it justice, we really need to settle in and explore it together. So let's get into it. Do you really want what you desire? Or do you just desire what you've been taught to desire? This question, which is just brilliant, comes from a notoriously difficult but fascinating French psychoanalyst named Jacques Lacan. And look, for most of the last century, this was the kind of question you'd kick around in a college philosophy class at 2 a.m. It was abstract, it was theoretical, it was a fun puzzle for your brain. But here's the central argument we're going to explore today. The internet, and specifically modern AI, has violently dragged this question out of the ivory tower and dropped it right into the middle of our daily lives. This is not philosophy anymore. This is our lived reality. Just think about it for a second. That TikTok algorithm, it seems to know you want to see that video before you even know it yourself, right? The Netflix homepage feels less like a library of movies and more like a diagnosis of your current emotional state. And Amazon seems to know you're thinking about taking up gardening before you've even looked at a packet of seeds. All of us, every single one, are living inside the answer to Lacan's question. And the scariest part, most of the time, we don't even have the language to talk about what's happening to us. Today, we're going to find that language.
All right, because this is such a big topic, we need a good roadmap to see where we're going. We're going to start with the ghost in the machine to get our hands around the basic concepts. Then, we're going to journey through 3 historical eras, which we'll call the 3 great mirrors of desire: the classical mirror of community, the kaleidoscope mirror of mass media, and today's enchanted mirror of AI. After that, we'll dive into the psychological fallout in a section called the illusion of choice. And finally, we'll try to find a way forward in our last part, waking up from the dream. It's going to be a journey, so let's begin. Part 1, the ghost in the machine. Look, to have any hope of understanding how AI is shaping our desires today, we first have to take a quick step back. We need a little primer on how desire has always worked, long before a single line of code was ever written. Okay, let's pause and really unpack the single most important and maybe trickiest concept for our entire journey today. It's what Lacan called the big other. Now, when you hear that, I need you to immediately erase any idea of a person from your mind. The big other, with a capital O, is not your rival, it's not your boss, it's not the other woman. The big other is the vast, invisible system of rules, symbols, language, and meanings that we are all born into. Think of it like the operating system for society. It was running long before you were booted up, and it's going to keep running long after your hard drive is wiped. It's the language you speak. You didn't invent English, right? You received it. And its grammar, its vocabulary, that shapes how you're able to think. It's also the whole collection of laws, social manners, family traditions, and cultural myths that quietly define what's normal, what's valuable, what's good, and what's just not done. It's the common sense that isn't really common at all, but is actually super specific to a time and a place. The big other is basically the background radiation of our social lives. It's the invisible force that's constantly whispering in our ear what a successful life is supposed to look like, what a good person is supposed to do, and ultimately what is even worth wanting in the first place. To make this crystal clear, let's use an analogy. Think of a sports game, like football. The small other, with a lowercase o, is any other player on the field. Your teammate, your opponent. They are specific, tangible people you can see and interact with. But the big other, that's the game itself. It's the rule book. It's the very concept of a first down or a foul. It's the authority of the referee, who is an agent of the rules. It's the shape of the field, the ticking clock, and even the shared understanding among the crowd of what it means to win or lose. The big other is the structure that gives all the players' actions meaning. Or here's another one. Think of a corporate office. Your boss, your coworkers, the person from HR. Those are all small others. But corporate culture, shareholder value, professionalism, the market, that's the big other. It's that powerful, abstract structure that dictates everyone's behavior, from the CEO down to the intern. This distinction is so crucial because we spend our entire lives interacting with small others, all while desperately trying to figure out what it is that the big other wants from us. Okay, so this leads us to another one of Lacan's famous lines, and this is where it all starts to click together. Man's desire is the desire of the other. What's so brilliant about this is that it has a double meaning, and you need both halves to get the full picture. The first meaning is pretty straightforward. Our deepest, most fundamental drive is the desire for recognition from the other. Think about a baby crying. It's not just for milk. It's crying for the mother's attention, her gaze, her validation that says, I see you, you matter. As adults, we just do a more sophisticated version of this. We want the big other, society, our culture, to see us, to acknowledge us, to give us a name and a place. We chase the likes on social media, the promotion at work, the university degree, the round of applause. We just want to be seen as legitimate. That's one side. But here's the second, deeper meaning. We also desire what we think the other desires. We don't just invent our wants out of thin air. We look to the big other to learn what we're supposed to want in the first place. The classic example is a diamond engagement ring. There is absolutely nothing inherently desirable about a shiny piece of compressed carbon. It's a rock. Its immense value was created by a genius advertising campaign in the 20th century that successfully embedded the diamond into the big other's definition of love, romance, and commitment. We desire it because we have been taught that it is desirable. Our wants are never purely our own. They are always borrowed, always reflected from this external structure. So, if our desire is constantly being shaped by this big other, Lacan says we're all sort of haunted by a constant, nagging, and usually unconscious question. In Italian, it's che vuoi, which translates to, what do you want from me? This is the anxious question we're always asking the big other. We look at our parents, our teachers, our culture, our social media feeds, and we're just desperately trying to decode the signals. What am I supposed to be? What do I have to do? What should I want? In order to be loved, to be seen as valuable, to finally get that recognition that I crave. You could say our entire life becomes a kind of performance, aimed at trying to satisfy what we imagine the big other demands from us. And as we're about to see, the entity that answers that che vuoi question has gone through some really dramatic changes over time. This table here is basically our master roadmap for the rest of our time together. We can think of the evolution of that big other as happening in 3 major phases, and each phase is represented by a different kind of mirror that reflects back to us an answer to that "what do you want from me" question. We're going to walk through each one, the classical mirror, the kaleidoscope mirror, and finally, the enchanted mirror, to understand exactly how we ended up where we are today. Let's start with the oldest one.
Part 2, the classical mirror. This is a world where what you wanted was forged not by you, but by the solid, stable force of your community.
For most of human history, figuring out what the big other wanted wasn't really a mystery. It was solid. It was stable. It was all-encompassing. The mirror that showed you who you were supposed to be was held up by the steady hands of your entire community. Let's break down these pillars. First, you had family and lineage. This was everything. Your last name wasn't just a name, it was a destiny. If you were the eldest son of a blacksmith, it was deeply desired by your father, by your village, and therefore by you, that you would become the next blacksmith. Desire was about continuing a legacy. Second, you had community and tradition. You lived in a village or tight-knit group where traditions weren't just quaint suggestions, they were the unquestioned laws of life. Desires that went against the group, that threatened cohesion, were seen as selfish and dangerous. And third, you had religion and dogma. This was the ultimate framework. It gave you a complete map of the universe with very clear labels on which desires led to heaven and which led to hell. When you combine all that with incredibly clear social roles and huge emphasis on concepts like honor and duty, you get a single, coherent, and powerfully authoritative reflection. The mirror's message was unified, loud, and clear.
So, you can see in this world of the classical mirror, your life script was basically handed to you the moment you were born. The big other answered your que voy question with a booming, unambiguous voice. I want you to honor your family, obey God, know your place, and do your duty. So, what did freedom look like in a world like that? How did you become an individual? Well, it almost always meant one thing: rebellion. To find yourself, you had to define yourself against that incredibly clear reflection. Freedom was transgression. It was the story of the daughter who refused an arranged marriage to run off with a penniless artist. It was the son who abandoned the family farm to go seek his fortune in the big city. You became a subject, a person with a unique story, at the precise moment you decided to break the script. The trade-off was clear. The price for this world's certainty was a very, very narrow path for your own personal desire.
Part 3. The Kaleidoscope Mirror. Sometime in the 20th century, that single, stable, classical mirror fell to the ground, and it shattered into a million glittering, commercialized, and totally confusing pieces.
The hammer that shattered that old mirror was technology. This timeline here shows the relentless march of mass media into our lives. Think about the 1920s, when the radio brought the voices of total strangers, announcers, actors, politicians, directly into the family living room. For the first time, it was bypassing the authority of the local priest or the village elder. Then, in the 40s and 50s, cinema and television became the dominant cultural engines, projecting glamorous new ways of life, new fantasies. Suddenly, a teenager in a small town could desire the life of a movie star in Hollywood, a life they never would have even been able to imagine before. The old gatekeepers of desire, the family, the church, they lost their monopoly. A new priesthood emerged: advertisers, marketing executives, and celebrities. They became the new arbiters of what was cool, what was successful, and what was desirable. This technological earthquake gave rise to a totally new social order: consumer culture. And it's so important we get this shift. For thousands of years, your primary identity was tied to what you produced and where you belonged. You were a shoemaker from Florence, a farmer from County Cork. But in the 20th century, identity became more and more defined not by what you did, but by what you bought. The car you drove, the brand of jeans you wore, the kind of beer you drank. These became the primary symbols you used to signal to the world, and more importantly to yourself, who you were. The new big other of mass media wasn't asking for your piety or your duty anymore. It was asking you to be a smart consumer, to express your unique self through your purchases. And this, right here, created this central, mind-bending paradox of the 20th century. The great promise of this new kaleidoscope mirror was freedom, individuality. You weren't trapped by tradition anymore. You could find yourself. You could choose who you wanted to be from a dazzling array of options. But how exactly did you perform this newfound uniqueness? Well, primarily by purchasing and displaying the exact same mass-produced, standardized goods as millions of other people. The rebel expressed their nonconformity by wearing a pair of Levi's 501s. The rugged individualist signaled his freedom with a Marlboro cigarette. The creative genius showed their iconoclasm with an Apple computer. The desperate pursuit of a unique identity was cleverly channeled into a pretty limited set of pre-packaged commercial templates. We were all running around frantically trying to prove how different we were, but we were all picking our costumes from the same small department store catalog. Part 4, the Enchanted Mirror. And that brings us to right now, to our present moment. If the last shift was like a shattering, this one is more like a phase change in physics, like water turning into steam. The mirror is no longer a static object on the wall that we just look at. It has come alive, it's interactive, it's learning, and as one of our sources so powerfully puts it, it is watching us watch it. Okay, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this slide right here. This is the whole game. The old mirrors, both the classical one and the kaleidoscope, they operated as a monologue. They were broadcast systems. A priest in a pulpit or a TV ad on a screen would declare a message out to a passive audience. You should want this. Be virtuous. Buy this soda. This is what success looks like. It was a one-way transmission of a predefined desire. The AI-driven Enchanted Mirror is radically different. It operates as a dialogue. It doesn't shout at you, it whispers to you. Its core message isn't a command, it's a seductive question. It says, hey, I see you. I saw that tiny, fleeting, half-conscious flicker of interest you just showed in that thing you scrolled past. What if I showed you a slicker, more perfect, more engaging, more you version of that thing? You see the difference? It doesn't impose a desire from the outside. It claims to simply discover a tiny spark of desire that was already inside you all along, and then it just offers to gently fan that spark into a roaring flame. This shift from monologue to dialogue, from imposition to seduction, it changes everything.
Let's make this super concrete by walking through the fantastic hiking video example from our sources. It shows exactly how this brilliant and kind of insidious process works. It's a 4-step loop. Step 1 is mirroring. Imagine you're scrolling on your phone late at night, you're a little bored, half watching TV. A short 10-second clip of someone hiking in a pretty forest flickers past your screen. You pause for just 1.5 seconds, a little longer than the 0.7 seconds you spent on that cat video, but shorter than the 3 seconds you spent on a cooking video. To you, this is a completely meaningless blip in your digital day. It's nothing. But to the algorithm, it's a rich, valuable data point. It's a signal, a tiny potential spark of an unmet, unarticulated desire. Step 2 is amplifying. The mirror immediately acts on that signal. The next day, it doesn't show you another random hiking video. No, it shows you an optimized, amplified, Hollywood-level version. It's a stunning 4K drone shot of a dramatic mountain sunrise. It's professionally color-graded. It's set to a soaring, epic, inspirational soundtrack. It takes your tiny, meaningless glance and amplifies it into something truly captivating. Step 3 is internalizing. This time, you don't just pause. You stop. You watch the whole 30-second clip. Maybe you even watch it twice. You're impressed. And then you hit the like button. This is a critical moment. You have now consciously confirmed to the algorithm, yes, your guess about me was correct. But even more importantly, you've confirmed it to yourself. You've taken the algorithm's suggestion and you've labeled it as your own authentic preference. I guess I'm someone who's into hiking. Step 4 is reshaping. Now the process goes into overdrive. The mirror isn't just reflecting anymore, it is actively reshaping your entire digital reality around this new preference. Your feed is now populated with ads for high-tech hiking boots. You see articles about the 10 most beautiful trails you have to see before you die. It starts introducing you to a whole ecosystem of hiking influencers who are living your supposed dream life. A month ago, hiking was a complete zero in your identity matrix. Now you find yourself on Amazon with a $100 waterproof jacket in your shopping cart, planning a trip you never ever knew you wanted. The mirror didn't just find a desire, it co-created it, it nurtured it, and it cultivated it into a powerful, monetizable identity. Part 5, the illusion of choice. Okay, so now that we have a pretty good idea of how this enchanted mirror works, we have to ask the really tough question. What is it doing to us? What are the deep psychological effects of living our lives in front of this intelligent, responsive, relentlessly personalizing mirror? Living with this new mirror comes with some pretty serious hidden costs. First, there's what's called the personalization paradox. That's the weird, unsettling feeling of being both perfectly understood and deeply surveilled at the same time. You know, it feels kind of good when Spotify makes a playlist that just gets you, but it feels really creepy when an ad shows up for something you only just mentioned in a private conversation with a friend. Second, this entire system is basically confirmation bias on steroids. The algorithm's entire job is to find out what you already like and show you more of it. This traps you in a recursive loop of your own tastes and beliefs. It makes it incredibly difficult to grow, to change your mind, or to discover something truly unexpectedly new. This leads directly to the third cost, filter bubbles. We hear this term a lot, but it's not just about political ideas. The algorithm creates a unique, atomized universe just for you, shielding you from people, aesthetics, and perspectives that might challenge you, leading to this profound sense of intellectual and social isolation. And finally, let's just call this what it is, persuasive technology. Things like the infinite scroll, the autoplay videos, the little red notification bubbles, these are not neutral design choices. They are features engineered by some of the world's smartest behavioral psychologists to hijack your brain's reward systems and change your behavior to serve the platform's goals, which are more engagement and more time on site.
not necessarily your goals for a well-lived life.
And this brings us to the absolute heart of the modern crisis of desire. In the past, you could at least try to draw a line. You could say, my parents want me to be a lawyer, but I want to be a musician. You could say, that billboard is trying to make me feel insecure, so I buy that face cream, but I know better. There was a clear external source of desire that you could identify and then choose to resist. But now, with the Enchanted Mirror, that boundary has dissolved into total meaninglessness. Go back to that hiking example. At what exact moment did that desire for hiking become yours? Was it when you paused for 1.5 seconds? Was it when you liked the amplified video? Was it when you put the boots in your Amazon cart? It's impossible to say. The source isn't an external injection anymore. It's a feedback loop that you are actively co-creating with the machine. You were complicit at every single step. So how can you rebel against a desire that feels like it sprung from your own actions, your own data, your own choices? The line isn't just blurry anymore. It has been structurally, fundamentally erased.
Part 6. Waking up from the dream. Okay, so if we're all busy co-creating our own algorithmic prisons, is there any way out? Is there hope? You can't just rebel against a system that feels so much like, well, like you. The old forms of resistance, of just saying no, they seem kind of obsolete. We need a new strategy for freedom. The way forward, as our sources suggest, isn't about smashing the mirror. That's impossible. It's about becoming a far more conscious, deliberate, and frankly difficult user of it. This requires what we can call a metacognitive toolbox. 3 key tools. First, reverse engineer your desire. The next time you feel a powerful new want bubbling up, I want you to stop and become a detective. Ask yourself, how specifically was this want constructed for me? Trace its family tree. Was the seed planted by an influencer you follow? Was it watered by 3 targeted ads in an article that your friend shared? Just doing that analysis, that creates distance, and that distance is an act of freedom. Second, practice informational hygiene. Don't be a passive, slack-jawed consumer of the feed. You have to actively seek out friction. Follow people you disagree with. Use an old-school RSS reader to build a feed that you actually control, instead of one that controls you. Read a physical book. Deliberately search for things in incognito mode every once in a while to escape the personalization trap. And third, and this might be the most important, consciously train your algorithm. If you are in a dialogue with this machine, then you need to take control of the conversation. Be a strict, demanding coach. When the algorithm shows you something that genuinely enriches your life, that aligns with your higher goals, reward it. Engage with it deliberately. But when it serves you addictive, time-wasting, junk food content, you have to punish it. Decisively hit not interested. Hit don't recommend this channel. And then most importantly, immediately close the app. You have to actively work to turn the algorithm from your seductive master into your obedient tool.
And so we end our long journey here, right back where we started, with a question. But it's a new one, a question fit for our very strange new world. We've seen that in the age of the classical mirror, freedom meant rebelling against a desire that was forced upon you. In the age of the kaleidoscope mirror, freedom meant critiquing the desires that were being sold to you. But now, in our age of the Enchanted Mirror, a world that is designed to seamlessly anticipate and fulfill your algorithmic whim, the very nature of freedom itself has changed. The ultimate challenge is no longer about discovering some mythical, pure, or authentic self that's hiding somewhere deep inside you. That self might just be a fiction, a story the mirror tells us. The new freedom, the real work, lies in the conscious, deliberate, and often very difficult act of creation. It is about choosing what is worth wanting. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. In a world that wants to give you everything it thinks you want, what is the one desire, just one, that you will choose to consciously create, to actively cultivate, and to fiercely defend for yourself? Answering that, well, that is perhaps the most important work any of us can do. Thanks so much for joining me.